The founding of the United States is a rich and interesting story. We all know something about American history. We have taken the classes in school and have read the textbooks. We know our founding fathers met at Independence Hall in Philadelphia to draft the Declaration of Independence, completing it on July the 4th, 1776. We all know that Betsy Ross sewed up the first American flag with 13 stars, about the ride of Paul Revere, the shot heard round the world at Lexington, the Minutemen, and the long war for independence from England that followed. We have only lithographs and paintings to bring those times to life for us now. Most of us can readily identify the founding fathers in these paintings and lithographs. There is George Washington, General of the Army and the first President. Benjamin Franklin, inventor, statesman, publisher. Thomas Jefferson, architect, naturalist, Secretary of State under Washington, Vice President under Adams, the third President, and the author of the Declaration of Independence. James Madison, fourth President, author of the Federalist Essays. Thomas Paine, the firebrand of the Revolution, brilliant rationalist, and author of Common Sense and many other pamphlets and books. Alexander Hamilton, first Secretary of the Treasury, statesman, writer, lawyer, politician, and soldier. At the end of the Revolutionary War, the task of writing a constitution was in order. Again, the founding fathers assembled for this purpose. By 1888, the process was complete. This is not the whole story. There is a missing founding father. His name and the important role he played is left out of most history classes and textbooks. Our founding fathers were not familiar with, nor had experience with an egalitarian, democratic, representative form of government, yet that is the government they establish. Where did this ideal come from? To find this information, we must go back exactly 32 years before the Declaration of Independence. In 1744, there was a treaty council held in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, between the colonial and Native American leaders. Detailed reports of the gathering were published by Benjamin Franklin and widely distributed. Canassatego was an Iroquois chief who was well thought of by many of the colonists. He was asked to be the keynote speaker for the gathering, and in doing so to summarize what had been discussed. Canassatego was a man of great stature, charisma, statesmanship, and had a booming voice. He pulled no punches in his criticism of the disorganization of the colonies. He encouraged them to unite using an Iroquois model of organization. What he laid out for those gathered there was an egalitarian, federalist republic. At the conclusion of his speech, Canassatego approached Ben Franklin. He ceremoniously presented a gift to him. Franklin accepted this offering of a single arrow. While he pondered its meaning and significance, the chief snatched it back, cracked it over his knee, and handed the broken arrow back to a startled Franklin. Suddenly the chief knocked the broken arrow from Franklin's hand, reached behind himself, and then presented 13 bundled arrows. Again, while Franklin pondered the meaning and significance of this offering, the chief snatched it back and cracked the arrows over his knee. Surprisingly, the arrows remained unbroken. The chief then presented Franklin with a gift of those 13 unbroken arrows, suggesting the 13 colonies be united and thus be less likely broken by the British. The message delivered by Canassatego was not lost on Franklin. From that date forward, he was a champion of just the type of government practiced by the 5 nations of the Iroquois Alliance, a form of government in place hundreds of years before the arrival of Columbus, with egalitarian, democratic principles, providing for checks and balances, and an avenue for the inclusion of additional members. Thomas Jefferson and other contributors to the Constitution admit the contribution by the Iroquois and other native tribes to our nation's design. Iroquois leaders were invited to Independence Hall in 1775 to observe the Continental Congress. They were given positions of honor. The Iroquois people were respected and held influence over the thought process of the framers of the emerging American nation. Much has been made of Iroquois influence on the symbols that were used by the emerging Americans. These comparisons can perhaps be seen as evidence of linkage of thinking between the Iroquois and the framers. The Sons of Liberty utilize the symbol of the Tree of Liberty, perhaps derivative of the Iroquois Great Tree of Peace. You need only look at the seal of the United States to see the influence of both Canassatego and the Iroquois Confederacy. On every dollar bill you will find, in the left claw of the eagle, a bundle of 13 arrows. In 1988, the Congress of the United States issued the following resolution: Be it resolved by the Senate that the Congress, on the occasion of the 200th anniversary of the signing of the U.S. Constitution, acknowledges the historical debt which the Republic of the USA owes to the Iroquois Confederacy and other Indian nations for their demonstration of enlightened, democratic principles of government and their example of a free association of independent Indian nations. If you love this country and its freedoms, give credit where credit is due. When asked on what principles and value this nation was established, reply in a strong voice, those of the Native Americans and Chief Canassatego.